Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over an incident that happened to me 6.5 years ago and walk you through my quest to find justice and go through the proper channels to make that happen. It all started in February 18th of 2018 at about 2 p.m. at the Union Depot in St. Paul, Minnesota. Union Depot is a transportation hub that services local buses, Greyhounds, and Amtrak. It's also leased for private events like concerts and weddings. It is owned by the Ramsey County Regional Railroad Authority. On February 18th, 2018, I went to the depot to catch a Greyhound back home to Chicago. The Greyhound was late. After 3 hours of waiting, I noticed that the battery on my phone was dying. So I looked for a place to charge it. I knew that there were outlets on the Greyhound, but it was important that I charge my phone because I had an e-ticket. When I went to charge my phone, the public area that has outlets for customers was blocked off due to a private event. So after walking around, I found an outlet near a vending machine. I sat down to charge my phone and was approached by an allied security officer named Michael Stroman. I was told that I could not plug my phone in there and that the private event should be ending any time and I can go up there to take a look for a spot to charge my phone. So I did. When I went to look, the private event was still going on, so I continued to look around and found another spot in the stairway. I sat down to charge my phone when the same officer approached me to tell me that I had been trespassed. It threw me off, and I was pretty pissed off about it. We exchanged words as I gathered my things and left. At this point, it was freezing cold. That day's average was 17 degrees. I had no power on my phone, and no nearby businesses were open. That's when I was approached by officers Grundhauser and Pederson.
Hey man, just stop right there. Do you have an ID on you? Do you have any? Oh, no, it's not what I asked.
The situation.
No, I just want your ID.
Okay. Am I required to ID myself?
Yes.
How come?
Because you were trespassed before, which is illegal, and you came back on the property.
No,
just listen.
I wasn't trespassed. He told me to leave and I left. That's why I was outside.
Okay.
Let me tell you what my story.
Okay. Do you have an ID or no?
I'm not giving you my ID.
Okay, well then you have to tell me your name.
No. I'm not going to give you any of that information.
Well, you have to
Unless
because
you suspect me of committing a crime,
Ma'am,
which I have...
Then let's just have to go to
All right,
jail.
yeah, we'll just go to jail then.
I was charged with trespassing and spent the night in jail. I ended up flying home the next day. I had a difficult time getting records and this body cam footage, and I eventually gave up because something else pretty significant happened. Less than a month later, I was arrested in Cook County for recording outside of the courthouse. Now, fast forward to 2024, I stumbled onto some information that St. Paul holds body camera footage for 7 years if it involved an arrest. So right away, I ordered the footage and received it a short time later. After watching the footage, I realized that this was a bigger problem and that they arrested me. Then they coerced the security guard to say that he made a citizen's arrest.
Right there. Yep.
I didn't want to do is I asked her nicely.
That's fine. So basically, were you guys here or were you guys in there? Just to get the lowdown.
Down here in the first, I told her she can't be plugged into the outlets.
Okay.
And she said okay.
Yep.
Then she moved upstairs and went and found a different location in the elevator vestibule.
Yep.
Plugged in again.
Okay.
And started arguing with me.
Okay.
Forget all the rules. She was like, F the rules and things like that.
Okay.
And I followed her back upstairs, back around from gate, I want to say that's gate B.
Yep.
Down gate A onto the platform.
Yep.
She said, this is public property. I don't have to leave the property. I tried to explain to her, man, this is still our property. It's still on our vicinity.
Yep.
You have to actually leave the property before you can catch.
So when you caught her plugged in before, you said that she was trespassed, right?
I told her that she couldn't be.
So she was trespassed for a year?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when did she come back?
Well, I followed her.
All the way.
Followed her on the pivot.
Yep.
I followed her down. She came back upstairs. Came to the bus platform. She sat out there for a good 5-10 minutes. I went to go get the form.
Yep.
Control center, they followed her on camera.
Okay.
Started walking this way. I came out here. I said, man, this is still our property.
Yep.
You do have to leave. You have to catch your bus in Minneapolis. F this. I don't want to say
it's fine.
F this, F that. F your code of conduct.
Okay.
She walked all the way down to the road down that way and came back.
So she was off your property.
Yep.
Okay. Then
back onto the property and started heading back east.
Yep.
East towards the Kellogg Street level.
Okay.
And I guess she came back this way. This way.
Okay. All right. Okay. Perfect. Oh, and then I need your date of birth and your phone number right here. Sorry. We were willing to work with her, but she did not want to give up her name or an ID card. So, you know what? You want to play hardball, especially what she said to you. I think she has to go to jail tonight. I think she's just one of those non-compliant people. You know?
It was then that I decided that I need to go through the proper channels and make this right. So after I came back to Chicago, I live streamed about what happened. And a lady reached out to me who is kind of an infamous troll in the forums here. Now, I'm not going to say her name, but I hope that she emails me so that I can thank her for everything that she's done. She went and talked to people, got records, did some recording, and she helped me out with a lot of things when I couldn't do anything. First, she went and she spoke with the management at the Union Depot. She said that she had a really good conversation and that they lifted my trespass ban. Along with that, they also made some changes to their policy. She also helped me get some records. So here's the incident report, the very vague incident report. And here's the 911 call. Before my court date approached, I actually called the prosecutor and spoke with her myself. I explained the trespass has been lifted, and I sent her proof of that. She dropped the charges, and I didn't even have to make an appearance in court. After watching the video, I knew that I had to do something about this. So the first thing that I did was make a complaint. The statute of limitations passed for me to do a federal lawsuit, but I also don't think that a lawsuit is the best way to get justice. And I say that because it'll usually rid them of liability, and then they don't have to pay anything out of their pocket. It goes to the taxpayers. There are two ways to make a complaint against an officer in the city of St. Paul. You can do it directly with Internal Affairs, and you can also make a complaint with the Police Civilian Internal Affairs Review Commission. And what that is a civilian task force that evaluates police civilian incidents and makes policies and disciplinary recommendations to the chief of police, but the chief is the one who actually makes the final say. Statistically, the review board and the chief agree 99% of the time. Next, I sent an email to Ward 2 Council member Rebecca Noark. In my complaint, I included all of my evidence, including the specific policies that were broken during my arrest. Here are a list of policies. The first one is 132.00, the primary objective. A large urban society free from crime and disorder remains an unachieved ideal. Nevertheless, consistent with the values of a free society, it is the primary objective of the St. Paul Police Department. In doing so, the department's role is to keep the peace, prevent crime and disorder, and enforce the law in a fair and impartial manner, recognizing both the statutory and judicial limitations of police authority and the constitutional rights of all persons. It is not the role of the department to legislate, to render legal judgments, or to punish. That was a clear violation. The next policy that they violated is the apprehension of offenders. The administration of criminal justice consists of the identification, arrest, prosecution, punishment, and rehabilitation of law violators, and it has as its objective the voluntary compliance with the law as an alternative to punishment. Once a crime has been committed, it is the duty of the department to initiate the criminal justice process by investigating, identifying, and arresting the perpetrator to obtain necessary evidence and to cooperate in prosecution. As the certainty of swift and sure punishment serves as an effective deterrent to crime, the department must diligently strive to solve all crimes and to bring the perpetrators to justice. In situations involving concurrent jurisdictions, the Department of Police will have primary jurisdiction. So this all talks about jurisdiction. But yes, they didn't do anything as far as collecting evidence, nothing like that. So that's another policy they violated. The next one is policy 150.01, and that involves loyalty. So in the performance of duties to serve society, an officer is often called upon to make difficult decisions. An officer must exercise discretion in situations where his or her rights and liabilities and those of the department hinge upon conduct and judgment. An officer's decisions are not easily made, and occasionally they involve a choice which may cause hardship or discomfort. An officer must be faithful to the oath of office, the principles of professional police service, and the objectives of the department, and in the discharge of their duties must not allow personal motives to govern decisions and conduct. Well, I definitely would say that their personal feelings had a lot to do with the reason I was arrested. Next policy that was broken was 150.03, respect for constitutional rights. No person has a constitutional right to violate the law, nor may any person be deprived of constitutional rights merely because they are suspected of having committed a crime. The task of determining the constitutionality of a statute lies within a court of proper jurisdiction, not with an officer who seeks to properly enforce law as it exists. Therefore, an officer may enforce any federal, state, or local statute which is valid on its face without fear of abrogating the constitutional rights of the persons violating the statute. An officer who lawfully acts within the scope of authority does not deprive persons of their civil liberties. Officers may, within the scope of their authority, make reasonable inquiries, conduct investigations, and arrest on probable cause. However, when an officer exceeds authority by unreasonable conduct, he or she thereby violates the sanctity of the laws they've sworn to uphold. 150.05, integrity, is another one. The public demands that the integrity of its law enforcement officers be above reproach, and the dishonesty of a single officer may impair public confidence and cast suspicion upon the entire department. Succumbing to even minor temptation can be the genesis of a malignancy which may ultimately destroy an individual's effectiveness and may contribute to the corruption of countless others. An officer must scrupulously avoid any conduct which might compromise the integrity of him or herself, fellow officers, or the department. All employees are expected to act with integrity in the course of exercising their duties. I don't think that happened there. 150.06, courtesy. Effective law enforcement depends on a high degree of cooperation between the department and the public it serves. The practice of courtesy in all public contracts encourages understanding and appreciation. Discourtesy breeds contempt and resistance. The majority of the public are law-abiding people who rightfully expect fair and courteous treatment from department employees. While the urgency of a situation might preclude the ordinary social amenities, discourtesy under any circumstances is indefensible. The practice of courtesy by an officer is not a manifestation of weakness. It is, on the contrary, entirely consistent with the firmness and impartiality that characterizes a professional police officer. All employees are expected to act with courtesy in the course of exercising their duties. To provide the community with trusted service with respect, all employees shall refrain from using abusive and indecent language, to include profanity, in the performance of their duties. A violation of this policy may result in discipline. 160.02, individual dignity. Recognition of individual dignity is vital in a free system of law. Just as all persons are subject to the law, all persons have a right to dignified treatment under the law, and the protection of this right is a duty which is as binding as the department as any other. The next policy that was broken was 170.01, and that's police action based on legal justification. What is reasonable in terms of appropriate police action, or what constitutes probable cause, varies with each situation, and different facts may justify an investigation, a detention, a search, an arrest, or no action at all. The requirement that legal justification be present imposes a limitation on an officer's actions. In every case, an officer must act reasonably within the limits of authority as defined by statute and judicial interpretation, thereby ensuring that the rights of both the individual and the public are protected. And the final violation to the policy that I found was 170.02, and that's alternatives to arrest. Once a violator has been identified, it is the function of the department to initiate the criminal process. However, there are circumstances when a crime may occur and the department will not make a physical arrest. There may be a report written, an application for a complaint made, or in some cases, when the offense is of a minor nature, a verbal warning or other discretion may be given. The decision not to make an arrest will be guided by department policy and the factual situation involved, not by the personal feelings of the officer. And he definitely went by his feelings. There's no doubt about that. Now, earlier this month, I was notified that my complaint was one that they chose to discuss at an upcoming meeting, and I was invited to speak. But instead, I sent a letter, and this is my letter. Okay, in the first part of my letter, I basically explain, what everything that I've explained to you guys about my situation, what happened, right? So I'll just start here. When they approached me, I immediately tried to give my side of the story, but they kept interrupting me to demand my ID, to which I have no obligation to give them at this point. Minnesota's not a stop on ID state, but they weren't concerned with any of that. They weren't concerned with talking to anyone. They didn't do any investigation whatsoever into the call. They had just arrested me and even admitted to doing it because I wouldn't give my ID. As you can tell by the video, I was clearly very upset. I had to sit in jail while my daughter sat at home, unable to reach me. What the body camera does not show is how one of them entered my cell and was yelling at me about just giving my ID. I flew home the next day. A friend of mine who lives in Minnesota talked to the manager, who immediately lifted my trespass. They also made some changes to the policies and moved additional seating with outlets to where passengers will always have access to them. I spoke to the prosecutor myself, who dropped the charges over the phone. This has bothered me so much over the years. Being arrested when you know that you've done nothing wrong is incredibly traumatizing. At the time, I tried to get footage and talk to attorneys, but I was just exhausted and wanted to put it behind me. Fast forward to 2024, I learned that St. Paul holds body camera footage for 7 years. When it involves an arrest, I immediately requested the footage and was shocked with what I saw. So apparently on paper, the cops didn't arrest me, but the security guard did a citizen's arrest. Turns out they can't arrest you without a warrant for a misdemeanor that's not done in their presence. Clearly, I was arrested by officers Grundhauser and Pederson. In the footage, you can tell and you can see them putting handcuffs on me and arresting me, saying that we'll just take you to jail then. And I was outside of the building because security told me to leave. Security did not arrest me. They wanted me to leave. As you can see from the video, after the fact, they were covering their tails instead of actually investigating what happened. Had they done any investigation, they would have known that it was my first time there and that I was not living in Minnesota and that I left the facility when asked. There's a portion of the video where Grundhauser is talking to security guard Strawman and twisting his words and leading him into signing a citizen's arrest form. Aside from this being an obvious ethical issue and against policy, I think it raises question of legality. I believe they broke the law when they arrested me and coerced the security guard into signing a citizen's arrest form. That's why I feel like I had to make this formal complaint, and that's why I felt like it was necessary for me to come to Minnesota and speak to you about my experience. Situations like this happen far more often than they should, and most people don't have the time, the means, the knowledge, or quite frankly, the energy to do anything about it. And as a result of that, they tend to get away with it. Not only do they get away with it, it's been embedded in police culture for so long that I believe they genuinely don't think they're doing anything wrong. There's been a lot of scrutiny of the St. Paul Police Department due to heightened awareness of police practices and accountability. In response, St. Paul has made tremendous strides. It's a lot easier to get records, and the implication of the Civilian Oversight Committee is a testament to that. I see you working to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. Your roles as independent oversight is essential to that. You help to ensure the allegations of misconduct are thoroughly examined and that corrective actions are taken when necessary. And for this situation, it is absolutely necessary. What happened to me was not an accident. It wasn't about not knowing policies and making a mistake. It was fully intentional. They arrested me as payback for exercising my constitutional rights, the same rights that they took an oath to protect, with no regard to if an actual crime actually occurred. They were comfortable enough to say that that was exactly their intention, knowing their conversation was being recorded. If they get away with this now, then they're going to think it's okay to do this to other people. These actions affect people. It's emotionally traumatizing. It risks our livelihood. It occasionally creates a financial burden and very negatively impacts our lives. The Bill of Rights in the Constitution is to protect us from situations like this. Filing a lawsuit will only take money away from the community, and the only way to get any real accountability is by teaching these officers that we will not accept this behavior. Like us, the police also need to have consequences for their actions. Thank you. Today, August 27th, 2024, I received the letter with the final decision about my complaint. And here it is. Police Department's Internal Affairs Unit received your written complaint involving St. Paul police officers and initiated an investigation. Your complaint was investigated and referred to the St. Paul Police Civilian Internal Affairs Review Commission. The PCI-ARC has 9 civilian community commissioners appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. The PCIARC is responsible for impartially reviewing the investigative file and deliberating the case. The PCIARC also makes a recommendation to the Chief of Police based on a majority vote as to whether policies were violated, and if so, if discipline should result. The Chief of Police is responsible for making a final determination in the case. This case was presented to me. I have reviewed the findings and recommendations of the Internal Affairs Unit and the recommendations of the PCIARC. And this is what he said. My final determination of findings in this case resulted in no discipline being imposed, and this matter is now closed. So I'm a little confused. I don't know if that means that the complaint was sustained, but there's going to be no discipline, or if it was unsustained or unfounded. I'm not sure, but that's the words. My final determination of findings in this case resulted in no discipline being imposed, and the matter is now closed. I want to thank you for submitting your complaint and allowing the department to investigate this matter, to review our procedures and the conduct of our officers. Receiving feedback from those that we serve is essential to improving our processes and responses. The St. Paul Police Department is committed to achieving excellence in delivering service with purpose every day and without exception. If you have any questions, please give me a call. I have this information right there. So I can't say that I'm surprised with the decision. I'm definitely disappointed, but not surprised. This just reaffirms my thoughts that the only way that there can be any true accountability is through the court of public opinion. Because the judicial system and using proper protocols was never meant for the people. It was supposed to be, but over time, the system that was meant to serve justice in a fair and impartial way became perverted and thwarted as a tool used to protect police officers, regardless of what they do. The only time I've ever seen any real justice be served always had to do with the public pressure. The powers that be react when the spotlight is on them. It's ironic how a good public persona is so much more important to them, and how the public actually really feels about something, they could actually care less. So if you think that I deserve to go to jail over what took place, then shame on you. I was arrested clearly in retaliation for not immediately providing my identification, to which I was not obligated to do. Instead of actually taking time to investigate what happened, these cops got butthurt because I didn't immediately submit to their perceived authority and decided to arrest me and then put me on that dumb security guard and coerced him into signing something like he arrested me when clearly he wanted me to leave, and it was the cops that made me stay. If you agree with the chief's decision or the results in no discipline and the matter's closed, then God help you. But if you disagree with the chief's decision, then let him know. You have a right to redress your grievances, as do I. This also helps motivate me to change the direction of my channel and my focus, which is going to be more on helping the little guy bring his story to the forefront. If you have police interactions that you believe you're treated unfairly in and you're trying to maneuver the system, please reach out to me and I can do what I can do to help you. I'm not an attorney, but I can guide you in the right direction. Thanks for watching. During a police encounter, the situation can quickly become complex and stressful. Having an attorney to speak on your behalf is crucial for protecting your rights and ensuring fair treatment. Imagine having an attorney available to you within seconds to provide guidance during your interaction with law enforcement. They can help you avoid making statements that could be used against you and ensure that any legal proceedings are managed correctly. By having a legal expert involved, you're better equipped to navigate the system, minimize potential penalties, turning potentially challenging and oftentimes emotional situations into one where your rights are upheld. It's very easy to fumble and say the wrong thing when you're talking to the police, so having Attorney Shield is a no-brainer. But what makes Attorney Shield so special to me is that the police cannot turn off your phone without your password. In addition to that, your attorney has access to your driver's license, insurance, your location, and emergency contacts.
Hello. Welcome to the test call feature of your Attorney Shield app. This brief pre-recorded message will help confirm your device's readiness for our service. Look for a smooth playback of this video without interruptions. If the video is clear, your connection is set. You'll also notice we turned up the volume just in case it was previously at a low setting. Take a moment to try accessing your documents by tapping the icon near the end call button. This mirrors the live support call experience. To conclude the test, tap the end button, then enter your security PIN. If it slipped your mind, just tap reset PIN to create a new one, then run another test to make sure everything's in order. Remember, with Attorney Shield, your rights are our priority. Thank you. and goodbye.